to Victoria now. Now, I won't go over much of the ground which has been done by lots of our other presenters, and you know that I went chapter and verse about the idiocy of Andrews and why he should be leaving that office because of what he put in place. A system where no one double-checked. A system where the Premier himself, the Jobs Minister and the Health Minister all publicly talked about security guards being the people who would be doing the heavy lifting, not the police or not the ADF. There was a bombshell, and I mean fair income bombshell, that came out of hotel quarantine when some data was dumped after all of the evidence had been given by all of the people who could be asked questions. It, of course, goes back to the central point that we knew on day one of this inquiry. Counsel assisting said that every single case of the second wave that led to 700 deaths, a curfew that has gone for weeks, and a lockdown that effectively means you can't leave your house for 4 prescribed reasons, which has been in place since July. All of it goes back to hotel quarantine. All of it is the failure of the Andrews government.
The failure by the hotel quarantine program to contain this virus is, as at today's date, responsible for the deaths of 768 people and the infection of some 18,418 others.
Now remember, why are we so hard on the Andrews government? It ain't a team red, team blue thing. It is that this government, by its own standards, has broken all rights to be able to stay in office. Remember, they passed laws that said that the suits in the boardrooms of Melbourne would be held personally responsible if someone died as a result of a safety problem on a construction site. Well, 760 people have died as a result of the decision not to put police or the ADF on guard in those hotel rooms. You know this, you've heard it a million times. But I want to give a specific shout out to Samantha Maiden at news.com.au because she had, as I say, a bombshell. It all goes back to that fateful day at the end of March when the decision was made about police not standing up, when security guards were the ones to get involved. Can I show you 3 people who you need to know about? The bloke on the left is from the ADF, the bloke in the middle is from Victoria Police, the bloke at the end is the Victoria Emergency Commissioner. He's the bloke who has effectively been running the process, which of course has now failed 768 families because they've lost their life. The reporting of Samantha Maiden is that at 4:30 p.m. on that day, there was a teleconference call, and the first one of Operation Soteria. That's the whole operation about hotel quarantine. On the phone, those 3 people. The meeting was recorded. She had images in her story of a transcript that reads in a chilling fashion. I won't act it out for you, but I'll put it as best as I can. Let's go to Crisp first. This is the guy who I thought was going to be the ultimate sacrifice, but we know Makakos copped it first. Now, this bloke said, and I quote, "I understand there's a preference from Victoria Police or the Chief Commissioner is that private security be the first line of security or that the police to respond as required. Is that your understanding?" Mick, who's he talking to? He's talking to the bloke from Victoria Police. He says, "Absolutely, that's our preference. On that day, police said they weren't going to be involved." So, Crisp leaves the meeting, picks up the phone and rings the former Chief Commissioner of the Victoria Police, who absolutely confirms, that's Graham Ashton, the third image there worth showing you, who absolutely confirms that that is the position of Victoria Police. Victoria Police made the decision that they weren't going to be involved in it, and bureaucrats and politicians didn't say, hang on, that's not what's happening in New South Wales. Yet this bloke actually went into the inquiry and said that he denied for the pushing of private security guards. Instead, the transcript, as reported today at news.com.au, is that there is a very meeting with representatives of his police force who say, absolutely, that's our preference. Here are the 8 people who aren't the Premier. The 8 people who've got very serious questions to answer because, oh so conveniently, Graham Ashton is now out. He's not the Chief Commissioner anymore. Martin Pakula, that's line 1, position 1. He's the Jobs Minister who signed off on the hiring of security guards. He said it at a press conference. Beneath him, 2 people from the public service, including the Premier's Chief Mandarin, and that's line 2, position 1, where he said he knew something about the ADF, but he doesn't remember if he told anyone about it. Beneath that is Crisp, who signed off on the decision, And then in the final row, the two people there are the health bureaucrats, the police minister, who clearly was railroaded by the police. Of course, the ultimate figure who has to be held responsible is Daniel Andrews. Daniel Andrews created the system. Daniel Andrews was the one who sat in National Cabinet. I know it for a fact that in National Cabinet it was often discussed what other states were doing. But for some reason, he never realised or ever brought it up that Victoria was doing something different. And Victoria was doing something different because the police said they didn't want to do the job. Ministers did not question that decision. The Premier did not question that decision. 768 people are dead as a result of that decision. The same Parliament, the same Cabinet, the same ministers, the same Premier who passed a law that said if you're a suit in that building company, you will be personally responsible if someone dies on your watch. Well, what does accountability mean when it's 768 people, Premier?